global databases at WIPO, and today I will show you an overview of PATENTSCOPE. As you will be muted during the webinar, if you have any questions, concerns, or comments, or if you would like to provide feedback, please use the questions and answer little icon that you have in your control panel so that I can see all your questions and comments. And at the end of the webinar, I won't be able to look at them right away when you send them, but we will conclude today's webinar with a dedicated question and answer session, where hopefully I'll be able to answer all your questions. If your question is left unanswered by the end of the webinar, don't worry. I will make sure that I take another look at all the questions sent during the webinar, and I will send replies by emails individually. About email address, this is our email address that you can use at any time when you use PATENTSCOPE. If you have questions, comments, or again feedback, so very straightforward, patentscope@wipo.int. After those introductory remarks, let's jump right into the topic of today, the overview of PATENTSCOPE. So you might already know PATENTSCOPE, you might be an advanced user, or you can be a complete beginner. Hopefully you will find something of interest today in this webinar. You might be using PATENTSCOPE for different reasons. You might be looking for a specific patent document. You're trying to figure out if what you have in mind already exists out there, or what your competitors are doing, or you want to find out the latest technology trends in some technical fields. PATENTSCOPE will help you with all those questions. It's available at the URL that you see on the screen. It's free of charge. Everything that you do in PATENTSCOPE stays confidential between you and WIPO, so you don't have to worry about others spying on the queries you sent in PATENTSCOPE. And it's available to all, provided you have an internet connection. So why am I showing you this big patchwork quilt? This is actually to illustrate the coverage of a patent database and why it is super important to know the coverage of the database, the patent database that you're using for your patent searches. This big patchwork quilt represents patents, and then the fabric squares, the territorial rights of those patents. Each patent covers a specific area, like a country or a region, where it is valid. So when you're searching for patents, you need to know which part of this quilt your database covers. Otherwise, you might miss out some important piece of information. Let's imagine that you have an amazing new idea, something like a super fast rocket scooter, for example, and you want to make sure that nobody else has already come up with the same idea. So you start searching for patent documents, but if your database does not include patents from the country where your idea is most likely to be patented, you could miss some crucial piece of information. This is why knowing the coverage, and this is not only for PATENTSCOPE, this is for any patent database. About PATENTSCOPE, the content, it contains all the published PCT applications. This is actually the authority source for published PCT applications. Also in PATENTSCOPE you will find data that is shared by national and regional offices. They share their own data, which means, for example, you can search Canadian national data in PATENTSCOPE, and the offices share also the national phase entries of PCT applications. You will also find in PATENTSCOPE non-patent literature. To find details about the coverage, just go to the Help menu under PATENTSCOPE Help. You have this dedicated menu on the top and direct access to the data coverage. When you click on it, you will reach this section of the Help, and if you select national collections, you will see the current coverage in PATENTSCOPE. You have different information. You have the bibliographic data, the frequency of the updates, the coverage for the different type of documents, and the number of records. You will find the total number of records at the end of the page for PCT, for national and regional offices, and all together. What you have to know in PATENTSCOPE, documents are aggregated. So for example, we do not count a republication as one document, as another new document. On the left-hand side, you have the different collections available. If you don't select the collection by default, your searches in PATENTSCOPE will be done in all the collections, but you have the option to select the collections, either one or more, in the different search interfaces. This is the simple search. You have the option, and you also will find the same option in the advanced search and in the field combination. I also mentioned non-patent literature, so there's a dedicated page for the coverage of the non-patent literature. Why should you also consider non-patent literature? First of all, what is it? It can be some articles, conference proceedings, technical reports, and different kind of documents that will provide valuable insight, as well as information related to inventions, technologies, as well as innovations. So this, if you include the non-patent literature in your searches, you will have a more comprehensive understanding of the current state of the art in a specific technical field. And you also will find in PATENTSCOPE, of course, the PCT national phase entries. There's a dedicated page where you see exactly the coverage and the different countries. In PATENTSCOPE, we publish what the PCT receives from the different offices, which means that sometimes the information is not available. All right, so now we covered the content coverage part, so let's take a look at searches. So today in this overview, I won't get into many details. The idea is really to give you an overview, and this should allow you to then target different webinars that will take place throughout the year, so that if you're a more advanced user, you can join the advanced searches, or if you're a complete beginner, there will be also webinars for beginners. Or if you're also interested in a specific area of PATENTSCOPE, let's say how to read the results, this will also be covered. I will have a little survey for you at the end to see where you have the most interest for the next webinars. So the interface by default is the simple search, and all the searches are available from this search menu. You have 5 different options. I'll show you the first one, the simple search. Here you have some predefined fields. There are 7 predefined fields that you can select from this drop-down menu. Those fields match different areas of patent documents. Let's say, for example, you have a number you read in a newspaper, for example, about a patent document, and you have a reference number. In such a case, you should select the ID/number field so that the search is targeted in the right field. This is an illustration of those fields and the matching areas of the patent documents. This allows you to target a specific area of a patent document depending on your interest. The search is called simple because you select one field and then you enter your query. It doesn't have to be a very simple query. You can enter all those examples, so one keyword, two keywords, and look for a specific expression. You can also use some operators. What you cannot do is combine different fields. So in the last example, we have some keywords, but we also have a publication date. So this is not going to work in this interface. You're limited to some specific fields. The front page is a combination of different fields, but all the others, there are just one field, a unique field. If you would like to combine different fields, you will have to use the field combination. In this interface, you can combine different fields. You always have the option on the left-hand side at the bottom to select the offices, to select the language of your search. This is not a translation tool. This is just to clarify which language your search is in. And with this interface, you have at the bottom the number of results. It's the only interface where you'll see right away the number of results, which allows you to refine your search. If you have too many results, or if you don't have enough results, you still have a chance while on this page to make changes. Here you will have two main limitations. The first one is the space in which you enter your query is not very big. So you might not, depending on your query, you might not be able to see your query entirely. And the second limitation is the use of the operators. Your queries, they have to use only one type of operator. So it's either and or the operator or. You cannot combine here both operators. If you would like to combine those operators, and if you have very long searches, then you will have to use the advanced search interface. In this interface, unlike the other two, there is no predefined field. You will have to enter the fields, but you can use unlimited number of search terms and you always see your search. You can use Boolean operators, you can mix those. You can also use wildcard weighting factor, and the good news is that there is a query assistant. This assistant will help you with writing the fields. For example, here, if I'm interested in the applicant name, I'm able to start typing applic, and then I will have some suggestions so that I can just select from the drop down, and then PATENTSCOPE will turn those keywords into the field. So this will allow you to avoid making mistakes when you write the fields. And then, depending on the fields, you will also be provided with some help. For example, if you're looking for CPC information, the system will guide you through the different classes. Also here, you'll have the option to select the language, select the office. You can also have your result grouped by families, and you have the option to include non-patent literature. I'll show you just an example of the search result list. Highlighted, we have our keywords in blue, and then the applicant in yellow, and then in green the publication date. So those are the main three interfaces that you can use in order to perform your searches, depending on the kind of searches you perform. If they're simple, if you need more operators, or if they're very complex, you should select the interface accordingly. Then you have other tools such as the cross-lingual expansion. This is a tool that was developed internally by WIPO. It will transform your query from, let's say, one keyword in English. You will have a multilingual, so it does a translation job first, and then it also provides some synonyms. So this is very useful because sometimes it's difficult to imagine what the applicant or inventor used as keywords. So this is to help you also find different synonyms. Very easy to use. You enter your search term, and then there are two different modes. I will show you in the automatic mode, so it's just one click. You can define whether you want a lot of result with a precision level low, or if you want less result but very high precision, so you can select this precision level. And then you will have a new query. You see it here. So from one simple query, shaving head, I have now this multilingual and also containing synonym query. To see it entirely, you can click on this button with the notepad and the pen. When you use this tool, of course, in your result list, you might have results that are in a language that you might not understand. This is why you will find the machine translation tool button on top of the result list, and this will allow you to translate the result list like I did here, and then within the document you will also find this same button so that you can also translate the content of the document. And the last option is for those of you who are interested in chemical searches. You have different ways to search. You can upload a structure, you can convert a structure, and you can also draw a structure like you would draw on paper. You can also find some Marcus formulas. This is all included, so it's completely free of charge. The only thing, you will have to be logged in order to be able to access this compound search. Once you perform your search, you will find a dedicated tab for compounds that will allow you to see where the compound is located in the patent document. And then within the text, when you hover your cursor over the highlighted keyword, you will be provided with the structure. So those are the 5 different ways to start your searches in PATENTSCOPE. And then of course you will have your results. They will always look like the ones that you see on the screen. No matter which interface you use, they will all be presented in a page like the one you see on the screen. You'll find the number of results on the top left hand side. Then to open one document, just click its number and it will open a page like this. On top you will find different tabs. So in this case, this is a PCT application, so we'll have some information related to the national phase, the ISR. Some don't contain this information, obviously, if they're from a national or regional collection. Some don't have the national phase information. Some also don't have family information. It really depends, and also it can be either a description and claims. This is through the OCR process, or it can be the full text. Once you are on a specific tab, let's say you're interested in drawing, so you select the drawings tab. If you use those arrows up here, then when you move to the next document, if the document in question also has the tab, it will stay on the same tab. Then you have your query here. When it's long, remember to click the notepad and the pen so that you can see it entirely and also edit it. And then you can customize to a certain extent your result list. You can sort your result. By default, it's done by relevance, which is done by an algorithm, or you can also sort by publication date or application date, either ascending or descending. Then you can select the number of results that you would like to have per page, and then you can see select the way the information is displayed. You can have very minimum information with just a single line that is called simple. Double, you have a double line, only images, and multi-column. This is when we show the different translations available. And this button, very useful, that I mentioned if you want to see and also edit your long query. Then you have up here other options to for your result. Here you can change, for example, the collections you're searching in. So you started your search and by default you had all the collection, and then you want to change to, let's say, only PCT. You can do it here. You can define the language of your search here. If you don't want to use the stemming, you can untick it. By default, it's active in PATENTSCOPE. It's a process that removes common endings of words, so that if you enter, let's say, support, you will also have in your result list supported, supporting, supports, etc. This is where you can also ask PATENTSCOPE to group your result by family members and also to include NPL. You have the option to save your searches. For this, you need to be logged in with a WIPO account. If you don't have an account yet, it's very easy to create. It's free of charge, and it will allow you to use the chemical compound search to save your searches, to download the result list with this button here, and also to save your preferred setting. Then this button here allows you to have your result list on one side and next to it a document open. And if you don't want to go back, just click those 3 lines. And here in the result list, you have this small graph button. This will give you access to the analysis of your results. By default, it's a table. It can also be a chart or a time series. This gives you statistical information, but you can also use this in order to narrow down your search. Let's say you want to have only the result for Siemens. You can click on Siemens, and then you want to focus on a specific type of publication, so you can select B1. Here, what you cannot do is select, for example, 2 applicants. If you want to select 2 applicants only, you will have to enter this information in your search. So refine your search with the applicant field and then enter the name of those applicants. This is also customizable, so you can go to the settings menu, and then in the result tab, you have the option group by. So this will give you the option to select the information that you would like to see in the statistical information, and then the number of items that you see. By default, it's 10. So if you're interested, let's say, in a patent document that were published in 2012, it will not be displayed. You need to increase the number of items per group here in the settings. And this is also where you find the downloadable fields when you download your result list. Also in PATENTSCOPE, you will find some useful tools for your patent searches, and they are obviously in the tools menu. We will take a look at the first 3. So WIPO Translate, we saw it in the result list and as well as in the documents. This is the machine translation tool that was developed by WIPO. Initially, it was only for the abstract and the title, and then it was extended so that it would be able to translate all the documents. It also now uses AI in order to provide better results. Very easy to use. You enter your text that has to be translated. You select the language pair. If you know the technical domain, those are based on the IPC. It will help to have a better translation. Then you will have your initial text on the left-hand side, and then on the right-hand side, you'll have your translation. Behind the scenes, this text is split into different segments. You see those segments highlighted in red. When you hover your cursor over those segments, you can see alternative translation, and you can select your preferred translation. You can also make some modifications. And then you just go to the edit translation for punctuation, capital letters, etc. And then you can copy and paste your translation into any documents. Another interesting tool for your patent searches is WIPO Pearl. It's WIPO's multilingual terminology portal. It will give you access to scientific and technical terms that are taken from patent document. There are different ways to search. You can search by concept, by subject field, subfields. This was developed by WIPO's language experts and terminologists. 10 languages are available. This is a quick example with cable car. So once you enter your search, you'll have the translation found, and then in those 3 little dots there's a PATENTSCOPE button which allows you to find that keyword directly in PATENTSCOPE with just 1 click. And then the last one I would like to mention is the IPC Green Inventory. This was created in order to help search for patent information specifically related to green technologies. And in this one, when you click, you select your topic, and then you will have information in both the IPC column and in the PATENTSCOPE column. If you go to the PATENTSCOPE column, by clicking on the classification, you will be redirected to the PATENTSCOPE result list, showing documents that contain that specific classification. There's just one menu I'll mention. This is where you will find all information related to PCT. This is where you can find all the PCTs that have been published so far. There's also access to sequence listing. You can find the download for the national phases and also the authority file. In the first option, browse by week, you will also find some statistics related to the IPC. Very useful. Also, you can select your preferred language for the interface. This is not a translation tool. This is just for you to work with the interface in your preferred language. It will have some impact. For example, if you use the simple search and you use it in Spanish and you select the full text, then the search will be performed in the Spanish full text when you use the simple search interface. So when you select the language of your search, of your interface, then depending on the interface, it might have an impact on your results. And then also very useful when you use PATENTSCOPE is the help menu and PATENTSCOPE help. We already saw it when we took a look at the coverage. Here on top you have a summary of what's available. So when you search, the first section, how to search, very useful. This is where you find the user guide, also the syntax and the different fields that are supported. There's a tool also that shows you the difference between wildcard and stemming. You will find some tutorials. There are lots of tips and tricks. Those are short videos showing you some of the features of PATENTSCOPE, and you will also find practical exercises. We'll come back to those exercises. There's a chat also. It's open on Monday. It's actually from 1 to 5 now on Mondays, so this is Central European time. This allows you to ask us live questions. And just to come back to the help menu, I wanted to show you the practical exercises that you find online. You can go to this page and practice a little bit. This will help you understand how PATENTSCOPE works and build better queries. And also, if you're into practicing, you will find some exercise booklet on our page, on our web page. So this is the page where you also find the PATENTSCOPE webinars. So you see where it says home, you have PATENTSCOPE. This is where you will find those exercise booklets. And then you have all the webinars. So we have the upcoming webinars. So this one we're currently doing, and there's another session exactly the same on Thursday. And if you would like to take a look at previous sessions, this is where you have to go to see the slides of those previous sessions. And I wanted to ask you a question about webinars. I would like to know which webinar you would be most likely to attend next. What would be the next webinar you would be interested in attending? You can select multiple choices. The practical sessions, they take place during the summer. They're 4 sessions, and we do exercises together. All right, very good. Thank you very much, everyone, for responding to this little poll. I'll give you a couple more seconds. Just to give me an idea what should be the next webinar. I see a lot of interest for advanced searches, so that's good, and also for the practical session. Very good. But we will also have some webinar for the less advanced user. No worries. So thank you very much for taking part in this little poll. And before I take a look at your questions, just to let you know that WIPO also has a database for brands and one for design. They are the same principle as PATENTSCOPE. They're free of charge, available to all. They're confidential, and we also do some webinars to guide our users. So you have here the link to those webinars. So this concludes my part. Now we have a couple of minutes for questions. So I'll take a look if you send me questions while I was talking. So there's a very good question about searching within the non-patent literature using IPC codes. So yes, it is possible. IPC codes were allocated by an in-house algorithm to the non-patent literature. There's another question about this automatic translation when you search. Let's say you enter a search in English, but you're actually searching the Bulgarian patent collection. This is not automatic at all. If you are targeting a collection written in a specific language, you should search in that language. Or if you don't know the language, you need to go via the cross-lingual expansion search, for example. Another good question about the legal status. So for this, we understand national phase entries. There's no rule as to how often the offices have to share the information with WIPO. So we depend on the offices and when they share the information. There was a question about patent searching using PATENTSCOPE. So I showed you the exercises online and the 2 booklets, and I'm also working with the WIPO Academy to offer a course in that would the title for now is Understanding Patent Databases and PATENTSCOPE. So hopefully this will be available very soon. So for translation, which program is used for translation? You have 2 options: WIPO Translate, that was developed by WIPO, or you can also have Google Translate. There's a question about the logging required in parentheses. I assume that is for the chemical compound search, maybe. And yes, this you need to be logged in to use the chemical compound. So there's a question about the delay between the publishing date and when it's appearing in PATENTSCOPE. So if this refers to non-patent literature, yes, there is a delay. For PCT application, we publish right on the day of publication, which is Thursday. So there's a question about the recording of the webinar. The webinar is not recorded, but you will find the slides. I show you where you can find the slides. There's a question about the statistical analysis and how to get the legal status for the patent documents. So the closest information you can find is using the kind codes. This will show you the publication state of the documents. There's a question about the slides, so I will not send them by email, but you can access them. Maybe I'll show you again the link. Here's the link. There's a question on how to search quickly the number of PCT applications filed by a given company. So you can first select the PCT collection, so you're sure you're not searching anything else. And then you enter the field for applicant name and you enter the name of the company. Remember that there might be different spelling of a company name, so this you will have to take into account. So there's the traditional question about the difference between PATENTSCOPE and Espacnet. Hopefully after this presentation you have some ideas. First of all, the coverage is very different. You might find PCT application in Espacnet, but the national and regional collection available in both databases are different. Also, the search functions are different, so it's another tool with its functionalities and coverage. So for the NPL, you can take a look there's a question about the content of NPL. So this is available in the help menu where you can see this page. There's a plan for this year to add additional non-patent non-patent literature information. There's a question about WIPO Pearl. So WIPO Pearl is the terminology portal. This allows you to find translation of technical terms and also to have a direct search performed in PATENTSCOPE for you. There's a question related to downloading the result list. It's an Excel file. If you send me some very specific questions, I need to read them carefully, so you won't have an answer now. I will reply later on individually. Your question is not ignored, it's just that I need to read it, and maybe it'll be easier for me also to reply by email. what is the information that you can download is available in the settings menu. I showed you those are the only fields that are available right here. Those are the downloadable fields. There are no other option. There's a question about saving your query. For this, yes, you need to be logged in so that in your result list you'll have the buttons to save. Let me try to find the slide here. So you see here you have this button in green. This will allow you to save your searches. For this you need to be logged in, and you will have all your saved searches available in your account, and you can just go to this page and with one click rerun your query. So in terms of, there's a question about the languages you can use to perform your searches. You can perform searches in all the filing languages of the collections we have in PATENTSCOPE, so it's definitely a lot more than just English. There's a question about the booklet. Yes, I realized when I was showing the slide that I didn't put the URL, so sorry about that. My mistake. What you can do is go to this URL here and then remove webinar, and you will land on the PATENTSCOPE web page where you will see the booklet. So if you're interested in webinars about how to write patent reports, you should check the page of the meetings. On the main WIPO website, there's a page dedicated to meetings, and this also includes webinar, and you might find this about writing patent reports. If you want to add non-patent literature to your searches, you need to do so you can do so, for example, here you have this button include NPL, so either when you in the search interface, or you can always do it in your result list here by clicking where it says include NPL false. You can click there, and then it will open this refine option where you can tick the include NPL. There's a question about the WIPO account. Is it free or paid? It's free of charge. There's the traditional question about an API for performing the search, and or any plans to allow performing the searches programmatically. So the answer is no. There's currently no API, and performing searches programmatically is strictly prohibited. So if you're interested in chemical searches and all questions related to chemical searches, there will be a webinar about chemical searches. This is a topic in itself. If you want to see already now what was done last year, you will find in the webinars, the previous sessions that I showed you, you'll find the slides about the chemical searches in PATENTSCOPE. This is in all PATENTSCOPE webinar. There's a question about the coverage that we'll discuss at the very beginning of the webinar. So here I'll show you the page again. You have PCT, and then all the countries below are countries that share their own national and regional data with WIPO. So if you're looking for, let's say, Australian patent document, you will find those in PATENTSCOPE. There's a request for a webinar in Spanish. Of course, there will be a webinar in Spanish at least once a year. We do, or twice a year, we do webinars in Spanish as well as in French. There's a comment about an automatic transfer from FPO to WIPO to get saved searches in a new system. You need to provide me with more information. I'm not sure what you're referring to. There's a question about sending emails to the upcoming webinars. So for logged in user, in your settings, you can select to be notified for future information. If you tick that box in your account, then you will receive the email about the next webinars. There's a question about the confidentiality. This is what I said in the beginning. It's free of charge, available to all, and everything you do in PATENTSCOPE is confidential between you and WIPO. There's another question about the use of artificial intelligence for the searches. No, the only use of artificial intelligence is within WIPO Translate. The FPO from the previous question was specified free patents online. So this is something I'm definitely not aware. I will find out for you, and I will give you more information by email. I would be very surprised, but maybe it's something I'm not aware of. So I will find out for you and get back to you. And I think with this, I covered almost all the questions. Thank you very much. You send me lots of questions. I'm very happy that you have some interest and send me some very interesting questions. I hope that you will join other webinars during the year, that you will use the different booklets so that you can practice your searches in PATENTSCOPE. And again, if you have any questions, concern, or if you would just like to provide feedback, don't hesitate to use our email address. You have the chat button. There's also a feedback button that you can use to contact us. And with this, I conclude today's webinar. And again, thank you very much for your participation and all the questions. And with this, I wish you a very good day or a very good night, depending on your location. And goodbye for now.